Hello friends, we are doing perspectives on neurolinguistics, and under this topic today we are going to discuss NLP filters. This aspect titled NLP filters very important because what do we mean by NLP filter? That is Neurolinguistic Programming filters. Under Neurolinguistic Programming we have already discussed that how we try to refine ourselves while making conversation with others in a way to enhance our personality. And as we are a social animal and we live in a society, so naturally any conscious person gets a number of information every day. So how to use all those information as per context. So the contextual analysis or the contextual response may be discussed in relation to NLP filters. Let us first see what do we mean by filters. While making conversation, there comes several things in mind. Surroundings, people, circumstance, situation, events, and all conscious mind will receive those. But we have to be selective as per the context. Now, these filters work to give a shape to the communication. And these filters are working all the time in deleting, distorting, and generalizing our meaningful conversation. So, friends, deleting, distorting, and generalizing, three important steps are there when we talk of NLP filters. And when we talk of shaping our thought and our conversation, that can be called effective conversation. Now, we perceive the world through our senses. That is a fact, that the perception that is there in our mind, and we analyze things in that perspectives only. What is already there inbuilt in our mind. And through an internal process, the sensory perceptions are transformed into external behavior. This process from perception to behavior is shown in the NLP communication model, that is the deletion, then distortion, and then generalizing, and 5 or 6, 7 senses. So every second approximately 4.5 million units of information are presented to us. If we should consciously perceive this chaos of information, we should become overwhelmed. Therefore, we unconsciously filter this information by delete, distort, generalize information. Based on our observation and the filtering of the information, we form an internal representation or a thought pattern. As per the context, always keep in mind, this internal representation is composed of images, sounds, feelings, internal dialogue, words that you say to yourself, smell and taste. Now, the internal representation and physiology, including attitudes and biochemical processes, have a significant interaction with each other. It creates the mood and finally sends this behavior and your result. So this process is always on in a conscious mind. And with the help of deletion and then distortion and selection, we fit ourselves in a particular situation. Neurolinguistic programming improves our way of thinking. That is for sure, and reacting and in gathering information. If you want to improve the thinking process of your mind, you should train yourself to make sense of the world, which is where the concept of filters come in. That is to make sense of the world. The perception that is refined perception. Now, let us discuss perception. It is one's own perception while looking and absorbing things. In another word, suppose I am looking at the desktop. For me, it can be a very simple, ordinary desktop, but maybe for other, it can be very unique, very extraordinary, very difficult kind of thing. So it is one's perception that gives idea to the one mind. How does your mind filter the excessive, unnecessary information available to it in order to create your model of the world? And what is more important as how to improve your filtering system? This is all based on perception, and these questions compel you to refine your perception. Because perception is very individual. Receiving information continually is a process that goes on, and we receive it through 5 senses. Undoubtedly, this is the amount of information in which a little is of our use. And it is here that neurolinguistic programming filters help us to revise and redevise our thought process to make meaningful output. Now, this is very important question as to how to go for filtration activity, because the word filter gives us something to redefine and to clear something. Now, there are several things involved in filtration process when we talk of NLP filtration process. The first is belief, the second is metaprogram, third is memories, fourth is values, fifth is attitude, sixth is current state, seventh is culture, eighth is language, ninth is personality preferences, 10th is interest, 11th is assumptions. Now, let us define what do we mean by all these topics or items when we talk of NLP filtration. Metaprograms can be defined as the innate unconscious filters. In fact, meta means beyond. So it is the innate unconscious filters. Metaprograms decide personality traits which make people behave and respond differently in a similar situation. And as I told you that every person is different from other one. One is very jovial, one is very serious, one is very curious, one is short-tempered. So, metaprogram decide personality traits. Now, what is belief? This can be explained as our base of thinking. Beliefs are what we perceive to be true about the surroundings, also about the world. And our ideology, entire things based our belief. Belief means your base of thinking. So it is very important to decide your personality traits. Memories. These are the conscious and unconscious collective experiences that influence one's current perceptions. It goes without saying that the behavior of an individual is significantly influenced by the subconscious or the past memories stored in brain. Next come values. We have already discussed beliefs and values. A person's ideology is based on the values she developed during his lifetime. Values are the inbuilt experience works as filter. Values give us sense to make a distinction between the right or the wrong, the good or the bad. Then comes attitudes. We are discussing NLP filters and various items and topics involved in filtration. And this all matter when we talk of NLP filters. So what is attitude? Attitude is based on belief and values one develops during his or her lifetime. That makes person's attitude. And as I said, that every individual is different from other in terms of belief, in terms of values, in terms of attitude. Culture is a very important aspect of NLP filter. Culture can be defined as the language, norms, values, beliefs, and more that together form a people's way of life. It is a combination of elements that affect how people think, how they act, and what they own. Indian culture, for instance, includes everything just mentioned. It also includes our history, architecture, accepted behavior, and so much more. So culture is an essential part of being human. No one is completely without it. In fact, an individual can be part of many cultures and subcultures. For example, someone who lives in India could be part of the national culture in addition to the distinct culture of the South, a religious community, a heritage group, and more. Now, current state, that is the present state. This is also one of NLP filters. The present state in which one works. The present in which one thinks, walk, eat, behaves, everything. Then comes language. This is also a very important aspect of NLP filters. Language is a set of symbols being used mainly for communication. The symbol may be spoken or written. Language is an aspect of human behavior. In written form, it is a long-term record of knowledge from one generation to the next, while in a spoken form, it is a means of communication. Language is the key aspect of human intelligence. So, language is something that gives extra power to human being, and that is why it is called that humans are rational creature. Personality preferences. This is one of the traits where personality preferences are a way of classifying a person's natural tendencies. And there are 4 pairs of opposing preferences, for example, extraversion versus introversion, for a total of 8. While all 8 are used by every person to different degrees, a person will lean more towards one than the other. Each preference is noted by a single letter such as E for extraversion. Different combination of these preferences letters make up a person's temperament and personality type. Now the first is, out of 8, the first pair, that is of 2, extraversion versus introversion. Extraversions, that is E, and introversion, I, describe how a person directs their energy either outwardly towards people and activities or inwardly towards thought and ideas. Sensing versus intuition. This is the second pair, that is of 4 out of 8. You are sensing, that is S, and intuition, that is N, to receive and process new information either by using your 5 senses or in more abstract ways. Then the third one is thinking versus feeling. So thinking, the thinking, that is T, and feeling F, preference Pair refers to how you make decisions either by objective logic or subjective feeling. And the last one is the pair judging versus perceiving. Judging J and perceiving P are how you interact with the world outside yourself, either in a structured or flexible manner. Now, an interest is a subjective attitude motivating a person to perform a certain task. It affords pleasure and satisfaction. It results in curiosity toward the object of interest, enthusiasm, to be attached to the object, a strength of will to fact difficulties while engaged in the task of one's interest, a definite change in behavior in the presence of the object characterized by attention and concentration. So, out of 8, well, this is all based on the filtration process. Interest is also one of the important part, and which is a subjective attitude. Then an assumption, because we are discussing the various steps of filtration. Assumption is also one of those. So an assumption is a statement that is presumed to be true without concrete evidence to support it. In the business world, assumptions are used in a wide variety of situations to enable companies to plan and make decisions in the face of uncertainty. Perhaps the most common use of assumption is in the accounting function, which uses assumptions to facilitate financial measurement, forecasting, and reporting. Being a rational creature, we do at least one of the 3 things with incoming sensory information that has been filtered, that is, delete and or distort and or generalize all sensory input. Now, this is called as a universal modeling process in neurolinguistic programming. Now, the 3 important states in NLP filtration, the first one is deletion. Very important to know what is deletion. So, as we are a social animal, we receive floods of information which need to be deleted at some point of time. As I said, as per the need of the hour or the context. One should focus on what is apparently most important at a specific moment in time, and the rest is deleted from our conscious awareness. Then comes distortion. We misrepresent our reality through distorting our experience of pure sensory information. Being intimidated by certain people, frightened of harmless situations, procrastination or misinterpretation, what someone says are example of how people distort reality. The process of planning, imagining or visualizing also uses distortion as part of deletion as a way of constructing goals and destination. Then comes generalization. Generalization is an essential component of the wider scientific process. In an ideal world, to test a hypothesis, you would sample an entire population. It is what allows researchers to take what they have learned on a small scale and relate it more broadly to the bigger picture. In everyday language, a generalization is defined as a broad statement or an idea that is applied to a group of people or things. Often, generalizations are not entirely true because there are usually examples of individuals or situations wherein the generalization does not apply. In this respect, generalizations can be similar to stereotypes in that they are sometimes offensive. Now, statements of generalization. These are the generalized statements that generally people make. Rich people are greedy, poor people are lazy, men don't enjoy window shopping, everyone is a cynic these days, no one could complete a marathon without the appropriate training, it's impossible for children to appreciate art. Now, these are the statements we generally, we use often. And this can be said as generalization, that all men are bad, all women are greedy, all women are quarrelsome. These are the generalized statement. So, we have seen in deletion or NLP filters that how to select things. If you remember, I discussed meta-state model of self-reflexive consciousness, in which I discussed that meta-states model looks at the same structures, not primarily in terms of linguistics or cinematic features, but in terms of thinking and feeling states. A possibility state or a necessity state, for example, will typically show up linguistically as a model operator of possibility, can go to, want to, or a model operator of necessity, have to, must. So, the meta model describes it linguistically, the meta state model describe it in terms of state. So, while describing the filtration process, a person should be rated on the scale of attitude, then personality traits, then personality preferences, then consciousness, then perception, then a number of things which already we discussed. So, to recognize and how to recognize yourself, to recognize your some modalities and work with these cinematic features in how you code your representation, means your present perception, you have to step back or go meta. Metacognition, I have also discussed that to know your knowledge, knowing one's own knowledge. So, you know about your caliber, your own limitations as well. So, you have to gain a broader perspective and ask questions that are meta to or higher than the representations. Now, certain questions are like, is that picture close or fat? Is that image bright or dim? Is that sound quiet or loud? To answer such meta questions, you have to stop being a subject of the movie, step out of it, and as you transcend that experience, notice the code as it currently is. That's why these are not really sub but operate as a meta level to your representation. So, what I mean to say that like the various categories we discuss, like introvert, extrovert, so one has to know oneself. And what I feel that the best thing is to judge yourself. Sometimes I wonder that why people go to a doctor or psychiatrist, because the limitations and your plus point, if you have, you sit and you write down. You write down your limitations very candidly and honestly, as well as your good trait. And you develop your good trait more, practicing those in different situations. Like we have also discussed a stage fear, the how to reduce a stage fear or a stage fright. Now you go on, and if you feel scared of the situations, the audience, you try to face that more. And if you face that more and more, and if you practice it, a day will come when you will be a very good orator. So, the best thing is, and I think that nothing can be best as you represent yourself in front of your self own, and that is why mirroring is also one of the important models of neurolinguistic programming. So, following this, practicing this, you can go ahead, and this is how you can move doing all filters, practicing all filters in terms of deletion and distortions and generalizations. We have to be very specific in a particular program, and that is why neuro-linguistic programming is very important. As the title is Perspectives on Neuro-Linguistic Programming, naturally you have to go for a very specific situation. I mean, for professionals in a business world, neuro-linguistic programming is a great success. And practicing it, you have to modify yourself, modify your thought, modify your trait, modify your attitude to become a very good and successful professionals. Even at home, or homemaker can practice all such process of filtration. Suppose I'm in a situation where we need to speak very less. Naturally, I will delete all those unnecessary things coming to my mind, or which I feel eager to speak out. But doing not that, that is to say, deleting unnecessary item, selecting only the important one, and speaking as per the need of the hour. That is the contextual demand. That makes you a very successful person. That is why deletion and distortion. Suppose I am in a class and something is distorting my thought. Naturally, I have to remove myself from that particular distortion and making concentration. So, concentration is also one of the important steps in filtration process. If you are lacking meditation, if you are lacking concentration, you do it again and again. And in my opinion, practice is the best way to achieve the target and the ultimate destination. Generalization, generally we say that in a professional world, one should not be very general or making generalize a statement that may hurt other as well. So before making sentences or speaking, you must rethink that is it going to hurt somebody, or is it going to create a bad opinion about yourself? If it is so, apply that statement to you also. Well, if you find that is not profitable to speak, why not? You revise it, you re-revise it. And this is whole your process of filtration. And that is why I also discussed the various steps involved in the NLP filters, various steps like beliefs, metaprogram, memories, values, attitude, current state, culture, language, personality preferences, interest and assumptions. Because personality, one's personality is the complete package of all these things. You can have the command over language, good language, only if you have a very good belief, if you are expert in metaprogramming. Memories, attitude, only then you can prove yourself a good orator and a good professional. And whenever we talk of neuro-linguistic programming for student, for professionals, it is very helpful because it is all matter of practice to define and redefine. I always ask a student to go for introspection. You recognize yourself, what you think, how you feel, how do you think what is right and wrong, and then judge. Judge applying all those thinking to your own self. If you feel good or if you justify it, naturally this will be healthy attitude towards society. So friends, NLP filters, very important for enhancing and reaching your personality, your thinking process, and your communicative attitude. So take care of all the points, go for practices, and repeat it again and again to become a good speaker or a good thinker and a good decision maker as well. I hope that NLP filter will help you a lot to take a decision, to become a good human being, to become a good professional, and to become overall a successful person. Thank you very much.